Hi, this is Nadine Groskoyak, the Gluten Free RN. Welcome to episode 13 of the Gluten Free RN podcast, where we're going to talk about how to get started and be successful on a gluten-free diet. Hi, welcome back to the Gluten Free RN podcast. Today, during episode 13, we're going to talk about how to get started on a gluten-free diet and be successful. This is not hard. It's just very important that you have some information before you get started so that you can be successful. Because I know a lot of people when they start have brain fog and there's a lot of other things going on and who knows how to get started, right? It can be a big transition for people, and I want to make sure that you have some very basic information, and you can refer back to the podcasting notes associated with this podcast, and there'll be a sheet there that you can download. But first, I'd like to send a huge shout out to Tim Hallowell from thepodcastingguy.com, the executive producer of the Gluten Free RN podcast and many others. And also many thanks to the Pulse Media Network, my friends, other nurses that do health-related podcasts, Kevin Ross, Elizabeth Scalia, and Keith Carlson. I love them. They're fabulous, and they actually were very instrumental in helping me start this podcast a few months ago when we attended the NNBA, which is the National Nurses in Business Association meeting in Las Vegas. So thank you guys, and I'm excited to have episode 13 under my belt at this point and out there on the airwaves. If you do like the Gluten Free RN podcast and the information you get from here, please feel free to leave a review or comments or questions on iTunes or wherever you listen to this podcast. And thank you very much to the people that already have left reviews or comments on the iTunes webpage. So today we're going to talk about how to get started, how to go 100% gluten and casein-free as quickly as possible. My friend Dr. Rodney Ford would say gluten zero. No gluten is okay on a gluten-free diet. He's from New Zealand and he's written several books himself. If you ever get to see or hear Dr. Rodney Ford speak or read his books, he's amazing. I would now tell people to be 100% paleo or some variation of a paleo. So basically that is gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, any grains, including rice and corn, and also no legumes, which are peanuts and beans. But if you can't do that, if you cannot be on a paleo diet right off the bat, either emotionally or physically, or it's just too hard and too overwhelming, make sure you're at least 100% gluten-free and casein-free as quickly as possible, and 100% gluten-free, casein-free at the very least. The reason you have to be dairy-free also, along with gluten-free, is number one, the microvilli that get destroyed, that excrete the enzymes that break down sucrose and lactase. That's the sugar in milk and sugar itself. Those are the first to get destroyed and the last to grow back. The other issue is the gluten protein or the gliadin protein and the casein protein from the dairy are molecularly very similar and our bodies read them the same. So even if you're 100% gluten-free, but you're not also dairy-free, there's a lot of symptoms that can continue because your body still reads those proteins as a threat or a danger, and they're still triggering your immune system. It's recommended that you take a liquid multivitamin every day, and if you're newly diagnosed celiac, please consider taking that multivitamin in the morning and at night. And make sure that you're taking those liquid multivitamins with food and especially with fat. And by fat, I mean super good high quality fat, such as bacon fat, avocados, olive oil, coconut oil, fish oil. Any fat that you can take along with those vitamins is going to be very important because you have to be able to break down that fat, absorb that fat in your intestines, and then also utilize that fat so that your body can absorb the fat-soluble vitamins, which are A, D, E, and K. So Make sure you take a super good high quality liquid multivitamin. And the one that I take is called Country Life. It's certified gluten free, and they make a whole array of vitamins that are safe for people with celiac to take. They're certified gluten free by the Gluten Intolerance Group of North America to less than 10 parts per million. I take them. And if you can't take a liquid multivitamin, they also make a capsule. Again, try to take it in the morning and at night. In the morning, they get absorbed differently than they do at night. And those vitamins actually are very important for your healing, which happens at night, and also digestion, which primarily happens at night. So there's very good reasons to take it in the morning and at night, at least for a few months when you get started on a gluten-free diet. Do make sure that your liquid multivitamins don't have wheatgrass or barley grass in them. Wheatgrass and barley grass give my people seizures sometimes. That's how much of a neurotoxin they can be. So I highly recommend that no one take wheatgrass or barley grass in anything you're eating or drinking, because we're sensitized to anything to do with wheat, barley, rye, and oats. When I say Country Life, please understand that no company sends me any money or any product for free, that these are the products I use, and I buy them and I pay for them so that I can give you the best information that is not in any way tainted so that you have the best information going forward so that you can get better. Clean out your kitchens and cupboards, wipe everything out, vacuum it, wipe it out again, vacuum it again. This is every cupboard because you really don't know what was in there. So even a breadcrumb will trigger the same autoimmune response or a dusting of flour. That's why we really want your kitchen to be clean. Clean out your silverware drawer. Give away any utensils that are wooden or wooden cutting boards, pastry cloths, rolling pins, anything where there's a cross-contamination risk and it's very difficult to clean. So it's difficult to clean things like wood or plastic and they can be cracked. Colanders, very difficult to clean, whether they're steel or plastic. And what happens when you add water to flour? It turns to paste. So what we want to do is decrease your risk for cross-contamination or actual contamination by gluten. And we have to be very careful because it will only take a breadcrumb or a dusting of flour. So we have to make sure that your kitchen is as clean as possible. I highly recommend that entire homes are gluten-free so people don't have to be paranoid in their own home. But if that's not possible for whatever reason, then make sure that you have a designated area in your kitchen for yourself or make a small designated area for the people that are still consuming gluten on the far side of the kitchen, hopefully very segregated, so that those crumbs that may be collecting on the countertop are not falling into any drawers that you then might use, like a spoon or a fork or knife out of that drawer. So again, I just don't want you to be paranoid in your own home. So if you can make your home 100% gluten-free, consider doing that. And do it for the dogs and the cats. Make sure the cat litter doesn't have any wheat in it or any of the grains. Really look at all of your personal care products, everybody else's personal care products. That includes lipstick and shampoos, conditioners, lotions, anything you might put on your body or in your body. Your skin is your largest organ, and it absorbs everything you put on it. So you have to be aware of gluten-containing products being capable of preventing you from getting better. Wash your hands before you eat, and also wash your fruits and vegetables before you eat them. That's very important, especially if you're purchasing fruits and vegetables from a store, and maybe your produce department is next to the bakery and they bake goods there. So you just want to make sure that there's no residual gluten hanging out on your fruits and vegetables. So just wash them. I hope you're washing them anyway. Always carry snacks, bars, or some type of food with you so that if you do get stuck in a situation where you can't eat at a restaurant or you're traveling and stuck on a tarmac for a couple hours, that you never feel like you're going to starve, like you never panic that you're not going to have enough food. So just always, even in your purse and your backpack, no matter what, before you leave the house, make sure that you have some snacks that day, just in case, that are available to you if you get hungry and maybe there's not anything else to eat, but you know that you have a little stash of food. So when I go to work, I have things in my office that if I can't go out, or if I maybe get stuck at my office for 6 or 8 hours, I know that I have food that I can eat there that is safe. And remember that eating out is like Russian roulette. It can be very tricky, especially in this day and age where there's very little oversight in restaurants about what is gluten-free and what is not. Some restaurants have been certified gluten-free and they're very knowledgeable, which is great. But it always comes down to our own responsibility and how comfortable we feel. There have been times when I've gone out to restaurants and I've ordered off the gluten-free menu and my food has come and I look at it and I go, you know what, something's just not right. I'm not going to eat it. So you have to be your own best advocate. There's also things like Easy Gluten, which will test for gluten in the food, whether you want to do that at home or out on a restaurant. You know, I travel a lot, so I carry test kits with me, either from the Easy Gluten ELISA test or the NEMA sensor, which is a brand new gluten detector little machine that you can carry around. It's very tiny. It's kind of fun to use, and did save us from a contamination down in San Diego last week. So consider carrying something that's going to give you some information if you do have to eat out a lot, because it'll prevent you from getting sick. And what we know is that even a breadcrumb can trigger the same autoimmune response. So we want to make sure that people are not getting cross-contaminated or contaminated with gluten, because that will keep them sick and prevent their intestines from healing appropriately. And that's the goal. The goal is to heal our intestines, get rid of the inflammation, which is the basis for just about every disease, and rebuild your immune system. So those probiotics that we should be taking almost every day, or, you know, depending on what your situation is, if you've ever taken any antibiotics for infection or prophylactically before a surgery, it's a good idea to rebuild that microbiome, because it's extremely important to our health, long-term and short-term. So sauerkraut, fermented foods, kombucha, anything that's alive, that super good alive food, is much better than anything that's not so alive. So make sure that you're constantly working at rebuilding your microbiome. And those are the bacteria that live in our intestines that are useful to us. They are a large part of our health. And we want to make sure that we have a healthy colony of microbiome on and around our bodies, and certainly in our GI tract. I don't actually recommend that people eat at fast food restaurants, and that's not because of I'm prejudiced against them, but I really think that sometimes the corporations think that they can feed people gluten-free, and certainly they would love to be a part of this community. But unless that fast food restaurant is 100% gluten-free, it is a risk every time you go in them, because I've heard many stories of people eating at fast food restaurants that say they can do gluten-free, but then they get sick. And sometimes it's from something as simple as a lettuce-wrapped hamburger or a salad. You have to understand that a lot of the people that work in fast food restaurants are fabulous, but they're teenagers or they're young adults, or they may have no knowledge of what a gluten-free diet entails and how much we try to avoid cross-contamination. The other thing, too, is the French fries. If anything else goes in that oil, such as beer battered fish or flour tortillas or breaded chicken strips, then that oil then becomes contaminated with gluten. And even though that oil is at a super high temperature, the gliadin protein, or the gluten, is very heat stable. It's a heat stable protein that even if it gets broken down a little bit, it's still fractionated, which means those proteins are still there and still can cause you damage. It's very difficult to denature a gluten protein. So the cross-contamination risk with the French fries that are cooked in a common fryer, that risk is too much to take. And I recommend that unless that fryer is designated gluten-free, that you not eat those French fries. So there's more and more restaurants that are actually coming up with designated French fryers. Stick with those restaurants because we all, I know I like French fries every once in a while, and especially sweet potato French fries. If I can get a sweet potato French fry that's from a designated fryer, sign me up. Initially, expect to feel like you cannot get enough to eat. Some people say they went on a gluten-free diet and they felt starving. Unfortunately, the other thing people tell me is they felt like they were not getting better, they were getting worse, and they couldn't get enough to eat. They felt like they were starving on a gluten-free diet. The reality is you are starving. If you are newly diagnosed with celiac disease and you have been malnourished for a number of years because your small intestines are damaged, you are starving. So I tell people to please go ahead and eat as much as they want, as long as it's gluten-free. This is not about calorie counting or portion sizes or anything like that. Hopefully you're eating super good, high quality food that's gluten-free. Hopefully it may be on a paleo diet. That's the big cut to the chase. And you're taking a multivitamin so that your body can heal, so that every time you go to sleep, your body is attempting to heal to a new level. So eat the best food you can and make sure that if you're hungry, eat. And as long as it's gluten-free, you're good. You're probably still going to lose an enormous amount of weight, even though you eat like a trucker. That's what I did. I ate like a trucker and I still lost 40 pounds. It was crazy, but I didn't need that fat anymore. That was cheap energy that my body was compensating with by keeping it around so that, trying to keep my body alive. So as soon as I repleted all of my nutrients, then my body didn't need that fat anymore and it just went away. It's great. And we also have people that gain weight. If I have people that are severely underweight or children that aren't growing or having a hard time maintaining a healthy weight, sometimes anorexic or picky eaters, those picky eaters, once we get their belly settled down and they feel better and they realize that food is not going to make them sick anymore, then they will eat. Let them eat. Their body will come back to the weight it's supposed to be. As long as we're eating super good, high quality food and not just crappy gluten-free food. And let me just tell you that even if it's a product that's labeled gluten-free, please make sure it's nutrient dense, that it is providing you with nutrients that are going to help your body heal. There's plenty of food out there that's labeled gluten-free, but is not necessarily healthy for you. Learn to make that distinction. I have whole lists of food that are nutrient dense, and I can assure you that there's no crappy gluten-free food on there, okay? If you have to read labels, and in the beginning you'll probably do that, my rule for labels are the ingredients list must be 5 ingredients or less, and I'll fudge on that every once in a while. But then I also must be able to picture what all of those ingredients are. So I know what cashew looks like. I know what a cranberry looks like. I know what a sunflower looks like. I have no idea what hydrolyzed vegetable protein looks like or where it comes from. So if I have to go, what does it look like? And I have no idea. And I have no idea where it comes from. I will put that product immediately back up on the shelf. I'm not going to buy it, nor am I going to call a 1-800 number and try to find out from somebody that may or may not know how to spell gluten, whether there's any chance of contamination with this product. So just follow a couple rules while you're shopping. You don't have a lot of time to waste shopping and doing all this food preparation. So spend your time and your money on products that are either don't have any labels at all, like fruits and vegetables, or the ones that actually are very simply labeled and very clearly labeled that they are gluten-free, they're certified gluten-free, and they're nutritious for you. They're nutrient dense. There may be a period of time when you do feel unwell, especially in the very beginning. You may feel worse. You may have headaches and nausea, vomiting. Some people have diarrhea and general fatigue. That's your body detoxing. So your body has to detox from the protein, both physiologically, emotionally, and probably every other way possible. Just get through that detox process. And that detox process can last different amounts of time for different people. Some people never even have a detox process, which is pretty good. But other people have a period of time, either for a couple days or a week, maybe 10 days, and then they come out of it. So just know that that's going to be self-limited, and you will come out of it and you will feel much better on the other side. Don't take the fact that you have worse signs and symptoms in the very beginning as a sign that your body needs that protein, the gluten protein. Your body does not need it. And it is just saying, okay, I've had this for a long time. Now I don't have it. And it's like it can be addictive. So gluten and dairy can be addictive. We know they're addictive. So if you're having cravings for gluten and dairy as you go through this period of time, please don't worry about that. It's somewhat normal, but very concerning. Read and ask questions. Do some research. Find information from reliable sources. And by all means, please find and join a support group. If you don't have one in your area, consider starting one. I've been the leader of our support group for the last 10 years. And not only have I met some fabulous people, but we've overcome quite a few issues just by being part of a group. So there's power in numbers. Yes, there are. And we're a pretty powerful group. So please understand that you should not have to go through any of this in isolation. Reach out, look for other people, find people to shop with and eat with, to ask questions of. You might find you have a whole new community of people that you really enjoy their company because you're going through the same lifestyle transition. Just be aware that misinformation is everywhere, and wherever you get your information, you want to double check it. And if you have any questions, please just email me or text me. Let me know so I can help you at least get to the right source of information. And find a healthcare team that's going to help you get better. There are follow-up labs that need to be done in a timely manner. You should have a baseline of labs, both for celiac disease and also nutritionally, which includes B6, B12, a vitamin D3 level, zinc, sometimes a copper level. So there's very specific labs that should be drawn as a baseline and then rechecked. And that should be determined by your healthcare provider, whether that's a nurse practitioner or an MD, a DO, a naturopath. Find a team of people that are going to help you get better faster and stay on a path of getting better. So if something doesn't continue to get better, you can at least look back and go, what changed? And you may need to work with an acupuncturist, a massage therapist, people that can really do some body work on you to help heal the damage that was done. Because very few of us get out of this without any damage to our body, especially when we've been exposed to gluten for sometimes decades. So your body needs some healing work. So whatever that looks like to you, or whatever you think you might need to regain your health, make sure you have access to those tools and people that can help you get better faster. Think about keeping a diary or food log. It can be very useful for your practitioners to look at and say, oh, this is a great source of vitamins and nutrients, but these foods over here may not be what you need to be eating right now. Stick with the nutrient-dense foods. Or this is a good treat, but don't have it every day. Consider having it once a week or once a month. So those food logs can be very handy. And the other fun thing to do is to take a picture of yourself before you start a gluten-free diet. And you may already have like a ton of pictures of yourself. But take a picture of any rash, any area in your body that is painful. Even if you don't have a bruise or anything like that, take a picture of like your elbow if it causes you pain at night, just to remind you that you did have that pain. So that when you look back over the next 3, 6, 9 months in a year, and then years, you will say, oh, you know what? I forgot that I don't even have that pain anymore, that it completely went away. And that rash that I thought was just acne or whatever is now gone. So the pictures themselves can be very useful, can be a useful tool, and really reinforce the fact that your body is healing and it is getting better over time. All of this healing does take time. It took us a long time to get sick for some people, and for others of us, we got sick really quickly. But the reality is that our body will regenerate. Every cell in your body wants to get better. And once you take away the thing that is causing it damage and replace it with good food, nutritious food, some vitamins, a couple supplements, your body will respond in a positive way. So my goal is the Gluten Free RN is to help you get there faster and more completely. I wish someone like me had been around 10 years ago when I started this. I would have gone immediately on a paleo diet. I would have done a few things differently, but that was my journey. I had to go through that. Now I know what other people had to go through, and some people still have to go through. So use the Get Started guide, review it, and get better faster. That's my goal, is to help you get better faster so that you can go out and actually enjoy life. None of this should be hard. It should be relatively easy. You should have a group of people, of support people in your life that you either have already there in place or you go out and find them. Thank you very much for listening to episode 13, where we reviewed how to get started on a gluten-free diet. Very important information for you to have so that you don't have to stress about this, and it's right there. Download the Get Started guide from the website and stay tuned for more episodes of the Gluten Free RN. In the meantime, if you like these episodes of the Gluten Free RN, please leave a review or some comments, send me an email. Let me know how I'm doing. If there's something I can do different or better, or a topic you'd like covered, please just get that information to me and I'll do what I can. Thanks again for joining me, Nadine Gruskowiak, the Gluten Free RN, for episode 13 of the Gluten Free RN podcast. Until next time, go out and have fun, eat well, and stay gluten free.